What's going on, guys? Bengal again here, coming back at you with another video, and today back doing another ranking video. Did quarterback yesterday, running back today. Subscribe if you're excited for receiver if you're not subscribed already. I think like 40% of the people that watch like any YouTuber's videos are not subscribed. So if you're on the fence, go for it. You can always unsubscribe later if you don't like it or whatever. I do want to address one thing, two things really, this is my favorite part of the video every time. Yesterday, I got a bunch of comments saying, "Oh, move the face cam. The face cam's in a dumb spot." And then people were responding with, "Yeah, Bengal's kind of an idiot. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, huh?" Fucking yesterday, I covered up just barely bust, and you're like, "Well, so we could see all the players." What? I moved all the guys into their spots afterwards. And you can see every single player on there except for 3/4 of one player in the lowest tier. Why is that a point of complaint? The second thing is, "Oh, you complain about the comments too much." Well, there's so many idiots that there's ample opportunity to make fun of it, and that is enjoyable to me. And today we're doing running back. This one is going to be a video that probably annoys a lot of people. Be sure to tell me how stupid I am in the comment section below. I love to read those. But, yeah, so the thing about running back is it is the most replaceable position in football, and that doesn't mean it's a valueless position, but it just means that so many players are around the same, not only level of production, but same talent and ability level, that it's really tough to differentiate and distinguish where these players rank, you know, against one another. And there's a reason that you're not really seeing running back get drafted high in the first round anymore. Of course, only one running back got drafted in the first round this past year, in Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. He went with the last pick in the first round. It's just a position that can be found so much later, and you can get production from so many different spots. So it's just not as valuable as it once was considered to be. Different offenses back in the day as well. And you don't really see a whole ton of power run done anymore. The 49ers and the Titans are really the only two that really do that well. Texans kind of do that also, but the Titans power run all day. And I've rated Derrick Henry lower in the past because I'm trying to think about his overall value. And I know everyone thinks Derrick Henry is this monster running back, and he is a good player, but like if you go back and you watch some of these Titans games, it's not that Derrick Henry is so amazing that like, oh, this is clearly the best running back in the NFL. It's the Titans offensive line was so good in power run that Derrick Henry was being untouched for 5 or 6 yards a lot of the time. And then when you get, you know, his frame, like 6'3", 250 pounds moving, it's tough to bring him down. It'll go for like 3 or 4 extra yards. So their offensive line was amazing. Like that isn't so much individual ability on Derrick Henry, but he also had so many yards, so you have to rate that highly. And kind of the same thing with a lot of these power backs. I just don't really rate them as high because they can't do as much as other running backs, but I'm going to try to make it a little bit more fair and pretend like offensive line doesn't matter, even when it does. But we're going to jump into it. I know we've maybe stalled for long enough here. Big shout out to Thiath for making this over on Twitter. Go ahead and shoot him a follow. He's up to 3 now, so maybe we can get that. We can probably get him at least 100, I figure, if you're interested in that. But we're going to start off here with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a tough one. Oh, last thing is I wouldn't be too concerned if you see a player you like go into like one of these tiers down here. Like average does not mean bad. Average just means, oh, it's, you know, like run-of-the-mill running back. They're decent. They can at least split carries, probably start on a lot of teams. But, you know, they're not necessarily anything special. And then serviceable is like they're an okay player. Another guy that probably will split carries. Or work in there, not anything special, but an okay player. These are not awful tiers. It just means there are players that I think are better. Aaron Jones is a tough one though, because Aaron Jones is really, really good. I think he's gonna go in star. Really solid player, can kind of do it all. Is not maybe elite in any one area, but is really, really solid, and I mean a really good player. Aaron Jones I like quite a bit. Adrian Peterson is my favorite player of all time. It's kind of tough to rank him as well because he was obviously elite in the past and that kind of dropped off a bit and then he couldn't really find a team, but was decent last year, honestly. I think star potential is probably the right range for him. Obviously, he doesn't have that potential to go up, but he's just not the player that he used to be. He's 33 years old at this point, 34 years old probably, so Obviously, production is going to go down a little bit, but Adrian Peterson is still productive, still a solid player. Will split carries this year with Darius Geis, and I know they got who else is in there? They lost Chris Thompson. They brought in Peyton Barber, I think, but yeah, it'll probably just be Darius Geis, and they have Bryce Love is the other one I was trying to think of. So he'll probably be either the main running back or at least number 2. Next up, we have A.J. Dillon, 3rd round pick by the Packers. I'm going to put him into backup for now. I really don't think he's going to play a whole ton. The thing that's interesting about the Packers is Aaron Jones is their star attraction, and Jamal Williams is a really good, not necessarily a change of pace guy, but someone that can catch the football out of the backfield and is a good number 2. But A.J. Dillon is a completely different running back. He's pure power, and I could see the Packers using him a little bit this year. It'll be interesting to see what kind of packages he comes in. Alexander Madison, I'm going to put him in serviceable. He is a backup running back right now to Dalvin Cook, but he's a solid player and has played well when he gets in the game. So I think serviceable is a decent range for him. Alvin Kamara, I'm going to throw into borderline elite. He's another guy that has split carries quite a bit, but is just a do-it-all running back that is just phenomenal. I mean, Alvin Kamara is so good with catching the football, running the football. He's kind of the do-it-all complete back that you look for nowadays. The only thing he lacks is true elite level speed, but he's so well balanced and he's so quick that it doesn't really matter. A running back, you need to worry less about speed and more about quickness, which is like making cuts and getting in and out of those and finding the lane and shooting through the hole. Next up is Ameer Abdullah. Fear Ameer. He doesn't really serve a value at all. I almost want to throw him into the bust range. I mean, he was a solid back at Nebraska. Didn't really do much for the Lions. Hasn't done much for the Vikings. He's the 3rd running back in there. And he's replacement level at this point. Austin Eckler, I think star range is good for him. He's another guy that can kind of do it all. Maybe not the power running back that you look for in between the tackles, but certainly is an elite catcher of the football out of the backfield. And can be the main running back, even though he certainly benefit from having Melvin Gordon there as well, when Melvin Gordon was actually on the field. Benny Snell. He was a 4th round draft pick last year. He's just a backup range for me. He's someone that will get some carries on occasion. Isn't amazing, isn't anything special at the moment, so I think backup is good range for him. Cam Akers. See, this is when it gets a little bit more difficult because we have to deal with running backs who have not yet played in the NFL. We have to deal with these rookies. And Cam Akers I like quite a bit. I'm going to throw him into probably serviceable at this point. I think he can be average initially. He might even be the starting running back for the Rams, although I think that's unlikely. I think more so that's going to be like Darryl Henderson getting a lot of carries. I think Malcolm Brown is still there. He might have been a free agent this past year. But Cam Akers probably at least going to split carries this year. And I don't want to overrate a running back because they've never played in the NFL before. I think he's in the 2nd tier of rookie running backs, so serviceable is where he's going to fit in for me. I think Chris Carson is going to fit into star as well. He's a really solid player. Fumbles the ball too much, and injury concerns have been a thing over this last season. But Chris Carson is a really good player, a little bit underrated probably overall, but it definitely is solid. Christian McCaffrey is certainly elite. He's a do-it-all running back. Again, maybe not the best in between the tackles, but that's just not the Panthers' scheme. He doesn't have to be. So Christian McCaffrey is unbelievably talented. He is certainly elite and is maybe the best running back in the NFL. As we move on to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's a rookie. I'm going to throw him into average. I think he fits the Chiefs system really well. To me, he wasn't the best running back in the class. He was maybe like 3 or 4. But for the Chiefs, he was the best running back for the Chiefs. He was the best catcher of the football out of the backfield, and I think that's going to be extremely effective in that Chiefs system. He's going to work really well. Edwards-Helaire is a really good player, so don't mind that pick for the Chiefs at all. We talked about that. I talked about a ton of the draft picks. If you want to check out any of the draft videos on the channel, make sure to do so. As we move on to Dalvin Cook, I think Dalvin Cook is probably borderline elite. He gets a lot of touches, but is so good in the open field. Dalvin Cook is a monster player. He's a really talented guy. Borderline elite, I think, is a good range for him. I don't want to like overstock elite, you know what I'm saying? So it should work as in that there are most players in star potential to serviceable, and then it thins out as you go up towards the top. But who knows how that will eventually end up looking. As we move on to Damien Williams. He's someone I think fits into average. He's an okay player. He's played well for the Chiefs, but I don't really think he could be a main attraction there, and he really didn't prove to be. So Damien Williams, I think, fits into average. Next up is Deandre Swift. I'm going to throw him into average as well. He's someone that's going to split carries, probably with Kerryon Johnson. I think average is good range for him. Again, I think these top rookies are all going to go into average, so a little bit of a spoiler alert there. And I like him. I like DeAndre Swift quite a lot. He was my #1 running back in the class, but we just don't know what he's going to do in the NFL yet. So, of course, I didn't preface this in the video, but this is going into the 2020 season. So there's a lot of not only guesswork here, but you got to go off not only the last season, but some of the rest of their career as well over like the past 3 years or so. So I'm not going to overrate any of these rookies that have yet to play a snap in the NFL yet. As we move on to Darryl Henderson. Why does that not look like Darryl Henderson to me? I don't know. It does now. I guess I zoomed out, it looked a little bit different. Because that looks a lot like Todd Gurley, even though that's obviously was never Todd Gurley's number. It almost looks like Todd Gurley meets Trey Mason, but that is Darryl Henderson. I think serviceable is good range for him. I think he's right on the same level as like an Alexander Madison. They kind of fill the same role. So I'm going to throw him into serviceable. Good player. I mean, a lot of these running backs are. Like, Benny Snell isn't even like a bad player. He's just someone that is not going to play a whole lot. So we're going to throw him in there. David Johnson, I think at this point, is in average. I mean, there was a time where he was borderline elite, but I mean, he has been so injury prone, and he's just never on the field. And even when he is, his production's down. And I know their offensive line has not been that good in Arizona, but David Johnson, he was really kind of a one-hit wonder. I mean, he had a good second-ish year, but really other than that, David Johnson hasn't done too much in the NFL. So I just think average is a good range for him. He's like 28 now, 29 years old, and he's been injury-prone. And, I mean, the drop-off at running back kind of happens around 30. So, and even with seeing some of that already, I think average is a good range for him. David Montgomery, I think, works in average as well. I like David Montgomery. He was fantastic at Iowa State. Didn't really get to see a ton of him last year. The Bears just seemed like they put him in a position to fail. And I don't know, he just didn't get the touches that he should have in a lot of situations. But David Montgomery is really good. Hopefully, this Bears offense figures it out for the sake of David Montgomery, who was a ton of fun to watch at Iowa State, even as a Texas Longhorns fan. Derrick Henry, people are going to want me to throw him into elite. I just can't do that. I'm going to throw him into borderline elite. I think the Titans' offensive line, who was so amazing run blocking last year, is a big part of his success. And Derrick Henry has definitely come a long way as a running back. I know he's a Heisman guy at Alabama, but another great offensive line for him. I don't think he's so unbelievably talented at running back the way some of these other guys are. But based on the scheme that he plays in, which is power run in Tennessee, he is a perfect running back for them. And I could see a team definitely overpaying him next year. I think he's playing on the franchise tag this year. But we'll throw him into borderline elite. He's a good player, but just, I mean, offensive line does matter quite a lot, especially for a power running back like that. Because we saw, like, with Brandon Jacobs, how amazing he was in the Giants' power run back in, like, 2008. And then, like, even Derek Ward was a 1,000-yard rusher for that team. And now, I mean, like, we'll see how Derrick Henry's career progresses. I think he's a good player. I just don't want to overrate him based on some of the other guys that are up there. As we move on with Darius Geis, I'm going to throw him into star potential. He was a beast at LSU, injured last year. Darius Geis is a really good player. We just don't really know what he's going to do quite yet because we haven't seen him. So, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is a tough one because he was really good when he played last year. Just didn't get a ton of touches. Probably going to have an opportunity to be more of that main guy this year with Frank Gore now going to the Jets. I want to throw Devin Singletary into star. Just looking at star, I'm not sure he's as good as Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler or Chris Carson. I think star potential is the spot for him right now. As we move on to Zeke, I think he goes into borderline elite. Zeke's a really good player as well. Also has benefit from a great offensive line. But, you know, no shot at him. I know I hate the Cowboys, but Ezekiel Elliott is a really good player. So borderline elite, I think, is a good range for him. This is Frank Gore now with the Jets. What a weird player. I mean, he's never been the best running back in the NFL. He's probably never been a top 3 or even 5 running back in the NFL. yet will be a Hall of Famer because he's up there for most yards of all time because he's playing up until age 35. He's still got a job with the team. Rushed for like 1,000 yards last year. So Frank Gore, I think he goes into average, man. I mean, he's not going to ever be the main attraction anymore the way he was in San Francisco for all those years. And but I mean, the fact that he's still playing is pretty unbelievable. So he should almost be an elite just because of what he's been able to do at that age. Amazing for Frank Gore. Gus Edwards, I think he is in, we're going to throw him in a backup. Like, there are a bunch of running backs in Baltimore that get a lot of touches now and are deserving of a lot of touches. And even with the addition of J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State, who they took in the second round, I want to say, this year, they have so many running backs. I mean, if you look at the roster with Mark Ingram, with Justice Hill, with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins, how many of these guys are going to play? Everyone wanted me to say Lamar Jackson there, but I'm not going to disrespect the MVP like that. Gus Edwards is a backup. He's okay. He's a good power back. Good goal line kind of guy. As we move on into Jalen Rashard. Why is he on here? He's back up. Jalen Rashard is all right. Josh Jacobs is the main show there in Oakland. I think Rashard got like kind of a big 2-year contract. It might have been like 2 years, $8 million for him last year, something like that. Maybe I'm mistaken. Jamal Williams, I think, goes into average. I like Jamal Williams. I think he's kind of in the same tier as a lot of these guys who are splitting carries. And Jamal Williams is like a backup, but he plays a decent bit and is a really good do-it-all type player. So I like him. James Conner's tough. I feel like people are gonna want me to overrate him based on his fantasy points that he gets sometimes. He's another guy who kind of doesn't stay on the field all that often. I know he had a battle with cancer. Amazing that he was able to overcome that. I can't really throw him in a star. I think star potential is a good range for James Conner. This is J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, I think, belongs in average. I think he's kind of on that same tier as like the top 4 running backs in the draft, so I think that's a good spot for him. This is Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon goes into star. He had a good year last year. He's another guy that doesn't catch the football, and I do value a running back who can do it all, as many of you guys know. But I think star is a good range for Joe Mixon. He's a good player. Just, is he as good as Zeke or Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara? I'm not sure that he is, but I mean, he's close. Star is like, you know, just under borderline elite, and some of these guys could go either way. As we move into Jonathan Taylor, rookie out of Wisconsin, he is going to be in Indianapolis. And he's splitting carries with Marlin Mac, who everyone was so mad when I had Marlon Mack in a lower tier last year. Well, it's coming again. Marlon Mack is unexceptional, and they drafted a running back at the top of the second round. I think that further solidifies that. Jordan Howard, I think, he's serviceable. Everyone gets so mad when I disrespect Jordan Howard. I mean, he's a power back, kind of. He doesn't really do anything particularly well, and he's not going to play a whole lot. Or, excuse me, he's not going to be, like, the main running back there. He's probably actually an average. But they have Matt Breida in Miami now. He signed with Miami. I just don't think Jordan Howard is all that good. I just don't know what he does particularly well when you watch him. Like, he's, like, about 4 yards per carry, which is pretty good. But, like, he doesn't do anything great. He doesn't have exceptional burst in the open field. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield. He's just, like, your typical run-of-the-mill whatever running back. So I think that's good range for him. Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a beast. He was only a rookie last year. Oh, what do I do with Josh Jacobs? I want to throw him into star. I do. He's so close. He's so close. I'm gonna give him the nod. I'm gonna throw him into star. He was a beast at Alabama, and he was really good last year. He missed a couple games, I want to say, and that's why the offensive rookie of the year went to Kyler Murray, maybe more so than the running back. But Jacobs, we're gonna throw him into star. This is Kareem Hunt. Another weird one because he was so good in Kansas City and then got kicked off the team for being a better kicker than a running back at times. And then signed with Cleveland, didn't really play a whole ton last year. But Kareem Hunt, when he's good, is really, really good. He's definitely in borderline elite to star range. But just because we don't really know what we're getting, we don't really know how much he's going to play, I think star potential is a good range for Kareem Hunt. Even though he has been so good in the past, but we just don't know what we're getting with him. Kenyan Drake, really solid for the Cardinals last year. Less good in Miami. I think star potential is a good range for Kenyan Drake. He's playing under the transition tag, so he's getting paid this year as a running back. I think it's like $8.5 million, something in that range. And he's a solid player. I think star potential works well for him. This is Kerryon Johnson, who I like. I think he's about star potential range. But I think he's probably going to offer the same ability of as a Jonathan Taylor. And he's going to be playing alongside DeAndre Swift. I think they're a really good thunder and lightning type combo, even though it's not like DeAndre Swift is game-changing speed. He's quick, quicker than fast, but I think he'll be an excellent smash and dash combo with Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson's good. Fun fact about Kerryon Johnson, which is not so fun for him, is he had the highest percentages rushing against stacked boxes. So against 7-man and 8-man boxes, he was consistently getting handoffs in those type situations. So really tough to pick up a lot of yards against those, especially with the type of runner that he is in between the tackles. So he's a good player. I think the addition of DeAndre Swift is going to open up a lot of lanes and opportunities for him to be even better. I think star potential is a good range for him. This is Shawn Vaughn, who was at Vanderbilt last year and is now on the Bucs. I think we're going to throw him into serviceable or backup for this. I think backup kind of works well. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in Tampa. I think he's going to split carries with Rojo. I think Rojo will get most of them, but we'll have to see. Keyshawn or Shawn Vaughn, he goes into backup for right now. This is Latavius Murray, who's another guy that's played well when he gets in the game. I think average is where he kind of falls under, though. Good running back, nice change of pace with Alvin Kamara, but I can't really put it much higher than that, honestly. Leonard Fournette, average as well. I mean, he barely is, but he's a power back who doesn't do anything more than that. He doesn't even particularly get a lot of yards per carry. He's around 4, 3.9 maybe for his career. He's just unspectacular, and I loved him so much at LSU. He was unreal coming out of high school and just hasn't done much in the NFL at all. And the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is definitely responsible for at least part of that. But Leonard Fournette's game just didn't really translate that well. He doesn't have the best vision, doesn't have the best burst. He's just a big, strong athlete that just hasn't been amazing in the NFL, unfortunately for him. As we move on to Le'Veon Bell, dude, I like him. He was elite for so long. I'm not going to throw him in elite. Didn't have a great year last year in New York. I think borderline elite is the good range for him. Le'Veon Bell is so good, so talented, but just didn't really show it last year. I almost feel like we have to spend more time on Le'Veon Bell because I feel like I'm going to have to explain this one with a lot of people probably discounting him. Here's the thing about Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he was 2-time All-Pro. Just looked in to confirm that. And he was so good. He was the best running back in the NFL. And then he sat out in 2018. Didn't play. So maybe loses that status because he wasn't playing. And then last year, he just wasn't particularly good for the Jets. But I can't take a guy who was the best running back in the NFL for multiple seasons, probably 2 seasons of being the best running back in the NFL, 2016, 2017, and was good even before that, and then take that and say, okay, he didn't play in 2018, wasn't great last year. I can't discount these 4 seasons where he was unbelievable as a receiver and as a runner. I just can't do it. I have to give him credit for that. And if he has to go into star or borderline elite because of that, I'm going to keep him in borderline elite, man. If he has a bad season last year, yeah, he's going to drop. But if he hasn't, if he bounces back, I mean, it's going to be like, how did you have Le'Veon Bell in star potential or star when this guy was the best running back in the NFL, didn't play and then had an off year and then bounces back? I just can't do that to him. If he has a bad year again, he's going to drop, and deservedly so. But for right now, I cannot do that to him. I just think he's too good. Mark Ingram, I'm going to throw into star potential probably. He's another guy that he's going to split carries. He's a good player. He actually... I think this is a good range for him, honestly. Another guy that doesn't really do anything particularly well. Solid vision. Gets a good chunk of yards when he runs the football. Doesn't have breakaway speed, obviously. But he is a solid player when he plays. Probably at the top of star potential for Mark Ingram. But a lot of running backs there in Baltimore. It's going to be interesting to see his impact this year. Marlin Mac, I think, goes into average. I really do. I don't think Marlon Mack does anything particularly well. He just decent vision, and he does what he's asked. I think he's going to be solid with Jonathan Taylor. They're two good running backs. The offensive line in Indianapolis is fantastic. I don't think he does anything particularly crazy. He's about middle of the pack as a running back, in my opinion. Matt Breida I like a ton. Star potential probably for him. Has split carries his entire career, but has been so good when he's on the field. Just the 49ers didn't give him a chance. They went with Raheem Mostert, who was very good, and Tevin Coleman, who has been solid, and, you know, they signed Jerick McKinnon to a big deal. Matt Breida is so good. Might finally get the opportunity to be a main starting running back in Miami, but probably will split carries with Jordan Howard. I like Matt Breida so much. He has such easy potential to be star, but star potential, I guess, works then pretty well. Melvin Gordon, I think, is star. He's good. A bit of a down year last year when he actually came back and played. You can attribute that to the rust a little bit. That's why we're going to throw him into star. But Melvin Gordon, when he's playing, is really, really good. Another guy that's probably going to split carries with Phillip Lindsey. You got to remember he signed with Denver, so he is probably the highest of anyone that's going to split carries. We're going to throw him into star. As we go on to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was really, really solid last year. I almost want to throw him into star. Like, you could, if I threw Josh Jacobs in there, I can probably throw Miles Sanders in there as well. So that's kind of like, we're following the hype there a little bit, but Miles Sanders is very solid. I think star makes sense for him. I think it does. Nick Chubb, I'm going to throw into borderline elite. Really, really good running back. He's someone who's so good in between the tackles. Breaks a lot of tackles. Very elusive. Really good run blocking team in Cleveland there. They rank pretty highly in that via Football Outsiders. But Nick Chubb is a solid running back in his own regard. People want to talk like he's better than Saquon. I just cannot get behind that at all. But he's certainly a really, really good player. Nyheim Hines, backup. I don't really know if there's much more to say other than that at this point. And we could maybe even change some of these backups to serviceable. Serviceable is a weird area where these guys are good but not starters, but also not like mainly splitting carries. I don't know. It's tough. I think Ronald Jones is actually going to find his way into serviceable. I'm not sure that he's in average just yet. Had a solid season last year. Really bad season his rookie year 2 years ago. Maybe going to do running back by committee there with Shawn Vaughn and whoever else they have in Tampa Bay. I haven't seen the depth chart. There's definitely going to be a third running back in there that will contribute. I know they don't have Peyton Barber anymore, so I'm not sure who's going to go in there. But Ronald Jones has potential to move up a lot, but one awful season and then one decent season. I can't really move him up much higher than that. Phillip Lindsey, I think star is pretty good range for him. Definitely a solid player. I think he led the league in rushing yards 2 years ago. He's a speed back. He's really solid. He's going to split carries with Melvin Gordon. I think they're about the same level. So he goes into star. As we get into Raheem Mostert, it's a tough one for me. He was so good last year after not doing anything the whole rest of his career. I think star potential makes the most sense for him. As we move on into Rashad Penny. Why the Seahawks took him in the first round, I'll literally never know. I think serviceable makes the most sense for him. He's another guy who's dealt with injuries. Hasn't been particularly amazing when he's been on the field. I mean, you're almost talking about a bust with him. I mean, he's not better than Chris Carson at all. I think we're going to throw him into serviceable. This is Ronald Jones. Who did I rate earlier? I rated Peyton Barber. Sorry, these pictures are small. Peyton Barber's not good. I'm going to throw him into bust. Obviously not a bust. He wasn't a high pick that didn't pan out. He's just not good and shouldn't play a lot. But this is Rojo. Rojo's going to go into serviceable. Apologies for screwing that up. But again, these pictures are quite small. Saquon Barkley, I'm going to throw into elite. That's, if ever there was Giants bias shining through, it is right now. I just think Saquon is so unbelievably talented. He does it all. I know, like, there can't really be many Saquon haters out there. The only thing he doesn't do amazingly well is take what's given to him. Sometimes he'll try to bounce it outside when there's, you know, clear lanes up the middle. And you'll take some of those when he can turn them into home runs. So I love Saquon Barkley. I'd like to think that I'm not biased whatsoever, but if ever there was a time to be biased, it's with Saquon Barkley. He's so good, just had some injuries last year. Didn't play that well because of that, but was amazing when he was on the field and healthy. Just, I think elite is a good range for Saquon Barkley. I'm not gonna rationalize that one more than that. Soni Michele, another first-round pick that I was surprised when the Patriots made that move. He's a decent player. I don't think he's anything more than that. I think average works well. I think he's about on the same level as Marlin Mac. Tarik Cohen, I like Tarik Cohen. I think Tarik Cohen is probably star potential, and that's like as nice as I can be. He's just a completely different running back than a lot of the guys on this list. He is so small. He's not even necessarily a scat back. He's just kind of more of a gadget player that can be just a deadly weapon in whatever way the Bears want to utilize him. I think star potential works for him and makes sense. Tevin Coleman is going to go into probably star potential. He's a good player, just another guy that is running back by committee. I think he's about the same level as Raheem Mostert, even though Mostert outperformed him last year. I'm aware of that. Todd Gurley, I think, goes in star. Todd Gurley's so good. It just, injuries are a huge, huge concern. And he's probably dropping from elite a couple years ago down to borderline elite last year. Even with injuries, I got to respect what he's done in the past. And I think he goes into star now. Obviously cut by the Rams. So that's not based on skill. That's about salary and injury concerns. Now he's on the Falcons, and he should play quite a bit. And then Zack Moss is a rookie. I'm going to throw him in a backup for now. Just like, Zack Moss is a decent player. Just doesn't really offer you a ton, at least right out of the gate. I think he got drafted by the Bills, and they have a capable running back in Devin Singletary already. Now, the one thing I will say is, based off of doing this list, I know that there are a number of names that are missing that I would like to have on there. Jerick McKinnon, I'd probably throw in an average. He's never on the field. Sometimes, even the best ability, by the way, is ability, not availability. But availability is super important as well. I think I'd throw him in an average. And then Devontae Freeman, at this point, I'd probably throw in an average as well. And I don't even know if Devontae Freeman's on a team. I don't think he is. Did he get cut? No, I don't know if he got cut by the Falcons. Did he? I think he did. I don't know. But that's going to do it for my tier list. My rankings for these running backs, they're pretty much in order. Probably throw Miles Sanders here, Josh Jacobs like here. But that's going to do it. Let me know where you disagree, per usual. I'm not sure that there are only 2 elite running backs in the league. I feel like maybe you could move some guys up there. It's kind of tough. But let me know what you think. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.